Hi, Laura.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
Good. Nice to be here with you, Beth.
Thank you. Uh, Folks, today Laura Kreuger from Asset Locale is joining me, and I'm very excited to continue our conversation and learn more about what you do and where your passion lies. Anything you want to share before we get started?
Oh, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be here and have the conversation today. I'm excited about what we'll discuss and where the conversation will go.
Me too. They generally take a turn. Sometimes we don't expect, but they're generally really good turns. So I agree as well. And Laura, just to start, business is a lot about what's important to us and what kind of how we build our business. So when you think of your business, how do you make your daily decisions that reflect the core your core values, and what are those?
Yeah, I really love this question because I think values is so core to how I live my life. And I think many people say that, right? They say, "Oh,
Yep.
I'm values driven." And I think I would have said that maybe 5 years ago. But if you had asked me, okay, so what are your core values? I probably would have scrambled a little bit to come to conceptualize them and to be able to actually articulate them. But I had a really incredible opportunity to work with Dr. Barry Posner. He's the author of the Leadership Challenge, and
Okay.
he's worked with really thousands of leaders. He was one of my professors in my executive MBA program at Santa Clara University. And so we were a new cohort and there was probably 17 of us that came together. And I want to say in the first week, he sat us down and had us really identify our five top values. So that's changed a lot of the way that I show up every day, having that clarity. So I think that it's really important to know your why behind what you're doing, because if not, you can get so reactive, especially being a business leader and a mom and having many different things come at me every day. It's really easy to be reactive, as opposed to being intentional, and I value the intentionality. So I think, yeah, those daily decisions get hard in the moment and you can end up focusing on the willpower of getting stuff done, but having core values to come back to helps me know what to say yes to and also what to say no to, because I think the no's can also be really hard.
Andy.
Right? There's so many good opportunities and so many things I want to say yes to, but time is a scarce resource, so we have to be careful there. So I guess one example would probably be my morning routine. I'm a big book reader. I mean, well, I'm a big Audible listener too. So
Okay.
I listen to more books than I actually read these days. But I read The Miracle Morning a couple years ago. It was recommended by another woman who founded a business. And so since reading that book, I get up at 4 a.m. and I get in the sauna, yeah, and I meditate and pray, I journal, I read some, and then I cold plunge and I go to the gym. And I do that about 4 or 5 days a week. And I'm not a morning person. That's not something that's fun for me. But I just notice that if I can anchor myself first thing in the morning, that really helps my day and it aligns with my value of health, right? So I start the day off right. I have time for myself, to be reflective, to see what's going well in my life and what I need to work on, before I dive in. So I think that's been very helpful. I mean, that's kind of an extreme example. Most people don't get up at 4 in the morning, but that's what works for me. But it does help me to start off the day and then be ready for my team and to really, think about when I have a decision that comes across my desk or my email, like what, who do I want to show up as? What kind of person do I want to be and what does that look like and how I'm spending my time. So, yeah, it's not every opportunity, deal, or relationship is right. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It can be good, but when I've when I am more intentional about understanding those values, it really has changed a lot of the way that I show up in life, and it creates a lot of, I think, peace as well. So,
I can't imagining. I mean, I can't imagine getting up at 4 in the morning. I've done that, but I can't imagine doing a sauna, journaling, and then taking a cold plunge. However, they say that's like the best thing to do.
yeah, well, so I'm a like I said, I'm an Audible. I also am a podcast listener, no surprise. And I love Andrew Huberman. And so Huberman Labs, I follow him kind of religiously, and I got into cold plunging because of him. So believe it or not, I cold plunge for exactly 12 minutes a week because that's like the optimal amount of time, not a second longer, because who wants to be freezing any longer than you have to be? But yeah, through the past few years I've struggled with anxiety, and the cold plunging really helps like my nervous system reset. And
Oh
to do it, yeah, first thing in the morning has been really good. But I'll tell you, every morning it's hard to get in. There's no part of you that wants to be cold.
no, I've done some work with Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins says the same
Yeah.
thing. It's absolutely, you need to do it. Don't think about it, just do it.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point where I'll at least take like the last part of my shower like with cold water. But I'm like, I don't know about getting. Everyone says it's good though. Everyone, I have to try it because everyone says it's the best. It's yeah, probably jolt your body. I just think of like when I grew up, I used to ski, and I would going from a hot tub in Colorado in the winter and getting out. I never
Hmm.
thought about, it's kind of like a cold plunge, when it's 20 degrees outside. Um, but it's that shocks your system, but it's really invigorating to do that.
It is. I mean, I actually have more respect for people who do the cold shower for two reasons. I love hot showers. And if you started taking away part of the joyful morning of like my lovely hot shower, I would not be very happy with throughout the day. So mad props for that. But the other thing is, I'm very optimized. I'm like, well, if I have a cold shower, like how do you get all of your body cold at the same time?
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, I want, if I'm going to do this and it's going to be painful and uncomfortable, I want maximum benefit. So I'm getting in the cold plunge and getting out as fast as possible. But yeah.
Right. Well, good for you. All right. So, Laura, you talked about some of the values that you have, and um, we've talked about success, but share with me a little bit more about what success looks like for you, both in business and in your personal life, and how do you feel you're doing at achieving those right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's what does success look like in business and personal? I mean, I think it does follow along with living out your values and having intentionality, right? So it's like the foundation is what are my values? Who do I want to be? And then really, I think that it shows up in your time. And it's, we all have 24 hours in the day. If, I think all of us, well, I don't know. I'll speak for myself. I wish that I always would love more time, right? More time to do more exciting, fun things and taking opportunities, but it is what it is. So I think that being really intentional around my time and seeing how I'm spending that in accordance with my values. I think that there's this idea that gets thrown around about having like a balanced life, right? That it's like, okay, work-life balance. I think it's been one of those isms that's been, I don't know if that's pop culture or what it is, but in my experience, it doesn't really exist. I've never been able to achieve perfect work-life balance. And I think that when we think of success, I think in the past, I've always thought, okay, I need to keep pulling levers to find that. And in the last few years, I've had a lot of challenges and struggles, and what seems more real and more true is, how am I reflecting on my experiences, right? So there's not, you don't make perfect choices in life. You have a certain amount of information and you make a decision based on the information you have. And then in hindsight, sometimes you get more information as time goes by. But I think looking looking back and being reflective on that and saying, okay, why did I make this decision? Right? What was the information that I had in that moment? How did I choose to make that decision? And then am I, happy or unhappy with it? Typically, we reflect a lot on the decisions we're unhappy with, right?
Right.
And the ones that
Right.
we're happy with, we just keep going, right? Because there was no there was no friction there. But both are important because I think if you're looking at success, it's the culmination of a lot of decisions over a long period of time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. And it is typically those, if you want to call it a mistake, those mistakes that you made that can be really good learning opportunities that can spark, more growth and more success if you give yourself that opportunity. So I think, yeah, I think
It,
you're,
it
yeah.
no, it is, Laura. I agree with you. Uh, People will tell you something that's gone wrong much easier than something that's gone well. I
Yeah.
think that's how we're wired, unfortunately. I did this. I've done this with a few groups where, tell me something good that's happened in the past week, and they struggle just to find one thing. But yet
Yeah.
they can tell me a half a dozen things that haven't gone well,
Hmm.
and it's creating that mindset shift that let's think about what's gone well, because what you think about is what's going to become reality. So if you're thinking about everything that's gone wrong, that's what's going to keep happening. But if we can think about what's going right, that's what's going to happen. Things are going to keep going in a positive direction. So I love that you also think that way, that you have to think about, they're not going to be perfect. It's not going to be a perfect balance. However, the more positive you can be, it sounds like the better, which I agree.
Yeah, positive, reflective, and yeah, and weighing the good with the bad. I love that you speak with people about that too. I think the idea, of what are you grateful for every day, right? That mindset of saying, okay, let me put my brain. I do that with my daughter over breakfast in the morning. Like, what are the 5 things that you're grateful for? Just because you want to prime your mind, right?
Right,
Just you're going
right,
to prime a well or whatever. Let me start looking for the good things. And because the bad things will come, and I will definitely feel all the bad ones, but I want to feel the good ones and I don't want to miss those. Um, and yeah, I definitely I feel that. It's so funny. I've started making a list of like, okay, what are the biggest challenges I want to attack this week, or the things that are creating the most stress so that I can work through them. And it's so interesting because as soon as they're off the plate, I'm not thinking about them anymore. Like they're released, but you better believe every week I have a list of stressful things that I want to work through. There's never a lack of stressful items that need to be addressed. So,
absolutely, that's very true. But it is like once you get it done, it's like,
yeah.
so it's like, I try as I work with people, I'm like, do the thing that you're dreading the most, that you think is going to be the hardest. Do it first, because when you get it out of the way, then your day is going to be, yeah, it's it's a piece of cake. And I love the fact that you're already conditioning your daughter to figure out come up with five is a lot. I mean, five. I used to do one with my work teams. I mean, I do three positives and three gratitudes every day,
I love it.
because I think it just helps keep your mind, in the right mindset of what's gone well. And so, some days it may be hard to come up with them, but other days you have so many. It's like, why can I save some? Yeah,
Yeah, we need to put them in the bank, right?
absolutely, absolutely. Put them in the bank.
Yeah. Well, you would be surprised. Almost every day, I'm grateful for a warm bed to wake up in. It doesn't have to be these huge things,
Oh,
right? I
right,
think also sometimes people think, oh, it has to be the most exciting. It's like, I had a delicious breakfast. I have 15 minutes to connect with my daughter. It's those little pieces of joy
I
that
agree.
that are
I,
great.
I, I absolutely agree.
Hmm.
When you think of significant moments, what's been a significant pivot moment for you, and what did it teach you?
Oh gosh, yeah. I've had some big pivots, I'd say more recently. And I think this kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, big moments in life or looking for big things. I feel more like I've been in a season of a pivot.
Okay.
Um, and it wasn't just, one day, one piece in time, but I managed for many years. I grew up in a real estate family. My grandfather was an investor in real estate in the Bay Area. My parents invested together, and then I really took over the business in about 2018. But I had been working alongside them for years before that. But about 4 years ago, my parents decided to get a divorce, and they're, much older in life, and it really wasn't, the emotional trauma of your parents getting a divorce. They had, a strained relationship for many years, so that wasn't surprising. But working in a family business, it was really like the business is getting a divorce, right? Because I have
Partners are separating.
siblings. Exactly. Yeah, there's five of us with my parents. So how are we going to split apart these different business entities? How are we going to split apart, ownership of in properties? And it's been a more than 3 year legal battle of trying to figure that out, and me managing the business alongside the family relationships. But more than that, it's changing my mindset. So I managed, in a family office. So we really didn't have outside clients other than tenants. I mean, I'm in the multifamily space, residential real estate. So whether it's townhome, single family, multifamily apartment buildings, but I never needed to go get new clients or new owners or anything like that. It was, acquisitions, dispositions for the family, for myself. So that was really different. But, I did see the writing on the wall that, okay, it's not going to be the way that it used to be, right? The way that my life has been, the way the business has been is not going to exist anymore. And so I had to make a decision, and the decision was to open Asset Locale and start building my own company because I realized, I like real estate. When I was a kid, I never wanted to be in real estate because that was what my parents did. But over the years, I've really grown to enjoy it. But the mindset change has been, okay, before I was operating in something that was very established, right? And now it's creating something really from scratch, but with all of these tools that I've learned, and that I've acquired over the time. So yeah, it's been a season, and it's probably been about, yeah, 4 years. And during that time, I was in my executive MBA program, which was intensive 22-month, pretty much nonstop program. So we were, I was going to school on the weekends, meeting with classmates in the evenings, running the business, trying to open a new business, also being a mom and a daughter, all of those things. And so, yeah, it's been a huge shift, right? So I think that, um, it it's one of those things. It wasn't one moment that all of a sudden I just decided I was going to open a business, or I decided that all this was going to change. But I think my mindset really, and my identity shifted a lot.
Sure.
So before it was like, well, I was supported within this family unit, not just of the family relationships, but the family business. And now it's like, okay, Laura's fully responsible, right? Fully responsible for the business, fully responsible for herself and these team members, going from an environment that was very structured. We had processes. We've been doing this for
So
decades,
long.
right? Yeah. And now it's like, okay, not only is it, having that responsibility, but needing to build a whole new structure because we now have outside clients and outside owners that I can relate to, being an owner of property myself. But it's different when I'm then the service provider, right? Managing their properties. So, and I think the biggest shift has really been, kind of that misnomer or the mindset of saying, okay, I'm going to be operating in this level of certainty, right? There was a huge amount of certainty that I felt, whether it was real or not. That's that's something we could talk about for hours, but that certainty to a lot of ambiguity. So getting comfortable in being uncomfortable, right?
Sure. Sure.
That has been a lot. So I had to make some big decisions and decide who I wanted to be, going back to values, right? Even in environments that didn't feel certain at all. So, yeah, it's been a big shift. There's been a ton of learning. I'm still in it. I would still say that I'm in a pivot moment because it
Okay.
hasn't doesn't feel totally stabilized. My parents' divorce will, knock on wood, hopefully be done by the end of this year, which will be nice for everybody to have that clarity. But you know, yeah, Beth, I think when you go through pivots, whether it's, I mean, this is a huge pivot for me, you learn a lot about
You
yourself.
do. You do.
Yeah, and it's, I learned that I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was, right? Like you sink or swim, you see what happens. But, also I think there's a huge amount of resilience that I've learned, but it's really not about, pushing harder or like being stronger or being fearless. It's like, okay, how am I going to show up and how do I do my best even when I don't know, right? Like that one day at a
Right.
time.
So are you still involved with Kroger Properties, the Kruger Properties?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're winding down a lot of that, so it will still probably exist in some capacity, but it will look a lot different because of the ownership changes. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough to have to go through. And being in business with family can be a really good thing, but it can also be a very challenging thing when these types of circumstances come up.
yeah,
When you think about that, Laura, and I mean, not knowing all of that, my question to you was going to be, what kind of personal sacrifices have you made in business that people don't realize? And I'm sure this is really one. But is there anything
yeah.
else that comes to mind where you make sacrifices that people don't necessarily see?
Yeah, gosh, I might get emotional. It's hard. I think as an owner, I feel a huge responsibility to the people on my team, right?
Totally.
I mean, I think that everyone has different perceptions of business owners, and there are many different types of business owners, right? That just
Yep.
like many different types of people. So that all makes sense. But, you know, as I shared before, time is our most sacred, or scarce resource, really, whether you want to call it sacred or not. But, if whoever you're working with, you're spending probably the most amount of time with them, more
Yeah,
than your family, right? Just if you think
totally.
of quantitatively hours. And while work is an exchange of value, right? You're going to earn a salary for doing this work. For me, it's so much more than that, that someone would choose to participate with me in building a business and share part of their life with me. So I really struggle having that responsibility. And so there is a certain amount of, I don't know if you want to call it emotional weight or stress that comes with leading a team and wanting to provide opportunities for them, wanting to be a good leader, which is always a moving target because business is moving. So you got to keep learning the skills as,
Totally.
as that,
Constant change.
right? Constant change. So I think there's a sacrifice in a certain amount of emotional or mental, I don't know if it's release or clarity. I was speaking with another business owner a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, doesn't it sound like a dream to just for a period of time show up at a job, work, and then be done at 5?" Just like the idea. And of course, there's benefits and for both
Drawback.
sides, right? Like
Absolutely.
I get to
Absolutely.
travel with my daughter. Last week she was in San Diego for a ballet festival, which I wouldn't probably be able to do if I was an employee of another company. So it's not that it's better, but I think that it's very hard to quantify the sacrifice of carrying the weight, not only for your employees, but all of the pieces that go along with it. And it's something that I choose, but it's a sacrifice and it's hard. Yeah, very hard.
Most definitely. Or it can be very, um, I mean, through the age of after COVID, where people can work from anywhere pretty much now,
Yeah.
being a business owner, that's a huge, I mean, a huge benefit. Now it is for, people that work with companies, but for a business owner, you know, you have the flexibility of really working from anywhere and being able not to miss those important things. Working, instead of taking a whole week of vacation, you work a little bit, but you play a little bit.
Yeah.
and because you don't want to miss those special times.
Absolutely.
Good for you. I mean, it's yeah, because that is it's hard, and ownership. There are sacrifices, but there are so many wonderful rewards too.
Absolutely.
When you think of um, your business and the way you show up, how do you want your business, or what's the impact you want your business to have on the community or on your industry?
That's a big one. I feel like we could talk about it for a long time. That's like the dream question, right? Why did you open your business? Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a conceptually different mindset, right? So it's, right now, Asset Locale, I run a property management business, right? And I think that it can be really easy to just see it as operations because there's a lot of operations in property management. But I try to change my perspective to make it bigger and to really look at more like the infrastructure that we're building for performance, like for our owners to be able to, grow their wealth and their portfolio, but also creating access. Access is really important to me because I think historically real estate has been an industry that doesn't have a lot of access. Most of the population doesn't have the opportunity to own real estate, or if they do, it's probably their home residence. It's not going to be their, bigger picture and investment portfolio. So I think, we look at it from, how do we be a partner alongside our owners to help them, not just managing their property, but then, yeah, how are we creating an overall ecosystem, which would be like our employees, right? And our tenants. I'm very proud to say that we don't manage a property that I wouldn't feel comfortable living in. And to me, that's important because your home is, at least for me, it's such an important part of my life. So if we can create homes, that support our community and then support those people who are living there, I think that's really, really, really important. So I think I think that's like kind of business foundation. But as far as overall in the community, I'm this year I'm president of Crew Silicon Valley, which is a local chapter of an international program called Crew Network, and that's commercial real estate women, and they really focus on creating access, visibility, and I would say real connections. There's a lot of networking organizations in all sorts of different fields, but I think when you actually the concept behind networking for me is building relationships, right? How am I going to build a relationship with someone? If I go into it thinking it's just a transaction of how am I going to get a deal, how are you going to give me a deal, that's really surface level. But what I love about Crew and what I try to perpetuate is really just building an environment where you have deep relationships. There's a lot of education, you're learning. But how do you get access? How do you get into the conversations, right? Like, how do you get a seat at the table and how do you be top of mind? And so that's something that is really, really important to me because it's not just access to the information. That's
Sure.
one step, right? Then it's access to the relationships, which is another step. But then those all come together to lead to opportunities in the industry. And in real estate, that can be a really big life-changing thing, to be able to grow a portfolio of properties that can change generations, of your family. So I think that, yeah, we do community involvement. I know our local chapter of Crew has a wonderful mentorship program. I've been a mentor twice now, and that's been an incredible way for me to give back to the community. And more than one of the women in my office have participated as mentees. Um, we also have an internship program when I was, yeah, at Asset Locale. When I was an undergrad, I was an intern. I didn't want to be in real estate at all. I thought it was going to be way too boring and was not going to be at all my life story. But I was very dead set on going to law school, so I interned in DC more than once, and that really shaped me. I think when you're a young person, it's very easy to, you have an idea of what something's going to be like, which usually comes from a job title, right? Or maybe Hollywood or TV, things that you see. And the idea and the reality are often very different, but having an
True.
opportunity, yeah, to get in the room, get into an office and start doing some of the work, you learn a ton about yourself. And even if you decide that this isn't for me, gosh, you've learned some skills, you've learned some tools. And so I'm really proud of my team for having a great internship program. And I think that we pour a lot back into our interns and we really use them. I mean, they really help us in the office. We're not asking them just to file paperwork and get coffee. It's like they're a member of the team. And even though that's on a small scale, the amount of impact that it had on my life, the people who gave me the opportunity to intern is exponential. And so for the people that do come in and participate with us, I hope it's similar for them because understanding how the business works is really helpful, even if they decide
Yeah.
then that they never want to do real estate. That also that's a good thing to know. It's just as much as knowing what you do want, you got to know what you don't want. So,
You
um,
do. I spoke to somebody yesterday who went, their undergrad was in, or maybe their graduate work was in architecture. And they said, I hated it.
mhm,
I thought I would like it because I like the creativity. I like, certain aspects but there's just so much that I didn't like about it. And it was a harder way to learn that I didn't want to be an architect. So you do. A lot of times, we think we know a path we want to go down, and it turns out to be very different. So giving those people the opportunity to intern and understand, is real estate something you really want, and are you good at it, and does it bring you joy and passion?
mhm.
Because as we talked about, you need to have that passion.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because you're spending so much time doing it. You want to have that
right.
that those joyful moments, and there's that intersection of saying like I might be really good at this and not like it at all, right? You can be really good at things and not enjoy doing it.
Right.
The inverse is also true. You can be really bad at something and love doing it, and then you have the choice to say, okay, am I going to invest more time in building up those skill sets? I mean, for me, I wasn't excited about real estate and having this be my career until it was less than 10 years ago. It was probably 2018 when I started really taking over the business, but I loved it because I loved putting together really complex deals, where it would be like, okay, finding an off-market property and then selling another property off market, doing a 1031 exchange, securing the finances. Those really complex pieces for me are fun. It's like a puzzle that comes together that I can figure out. For some people, it would make them crazy and that would be like, they would never want to do that. But, I mean, and that's also part of the reason why, once Asset Locale gets more established in property management, we'll go into syndication because I think syndication is a beautiful way to do what I love. Though it's fun acquiring properties, doing value add, all of those pieces. But it's also a way, an intersection that it helps people get more ownership and access, whether it's the employees participating or other owners. But yeah, it's that crossroads of all of those passionate pieces that come together, which I think are so important.
Well, Laura, as we wrap up, my last question for you is, what does success look like beyond the bottom line?
Mm, yeah, I think success looks like a life that I'm proud of and that's full of joy, that that has an impact outside of myself, right? So I think it actually that question is perfect for everything that we talked about, right? It kind of it hits on the values and it hits on the community. But yeah, I think success is so much more than the bottom line. I think the bottom line might just be the very first step, but it's so much bigger than that.
I would agree with you, and I love how you've talked about how you give back, what's important for you, and how you want it to impact your community and your industry. And I think like many, not just women, but many people, you kind of went down a path that um, didn't lead you to where you are today. Saying you were going to go to law, you went to law school, and you never thought you'd be in real estate. That happens to so many people. But I
Yeah.
think to your point, it's finding the passion, finding whether you're good at it, you enjoy it. Um, that's those are key. Those are key elements because when you are good at something and you really love it, that's the home run.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah. That's the secret sauce. It
that
comes
is.
and it doesn't mean that it's easy, right? It I think sometimes the thought is, oh, then it'll be easy. No, it just means that you get so much joy and purpose, which is how we want to live life, right? There
Correct.
can still be challenges, but you have that push to keep going.
Laura, I hope everyone continues to push to where they want to go and they find their passion and they find what they enjoy because to your point, that really is the secret sauce. Is there anything you would like to add before we wrap up?
Well, I guess I would, love to continue the conversation, whether it's between you and I or your listeners. So if what I shared today resonated with anyone, feel free to reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, Laura L. Kreuger. There's another Laura Kreuger, so make sure you add the L in the middle. Yeah, or my email's laura@assetlocale.com. So
And
yeah,
folks, we will have all of, I'm sorry, we will have all of Laura's social media links so you can find her and connect with her and learn more. Um, because absolutely reach out if you not only if you're looking for property management, but if you're looking for somebody who's been able to take and build something that really wasn't their dream, but they build it into their passion. Uh, Laura's a great person to talk to. And Laura, I greatly appreciate our conversation. Um, Folks, for you, I'd ask you, what does success look like beyond the bottom line? Thank you.
thank you.